How do you know? How do you recognize that one critical moment, that opportunity that could change everything? Is it just a gut feeling, a weird coincidence, or maybe is it something else entirely? It's a huge question, and in this explainer, we're going to break down one very specific framework for answering it.
Okay, let's dive right in. Today we're digging into a devotional text called Rhapsody of Realities by Pastor Chris Oyakhilome, and the focus is on a very specific kind of opportunity, what the text calls a soul-winning opportunity. It lays out a really distinct method for how to see and, more importantly, act on these divinely guided moments.
All right, so the whole concept that's presented here, it's really built on one single core idea. It all starts with this central figure, who's described as the Master Strategist.
So, who is this Master Strategist? Well, according to the source material, it's the Holy Spirit. The text basically positions the Holy Spirit as an active guide in evangelism, someone who orchestrates encounters, opens up doors for conversation, and gives you the exact words and actions you need to be effective. The key idea here is that these opportunities, they aren't random. They are intentionally created.
But, this idea of divine guidance can feel a little abstract, right? So to make it tangible, the devotional doesn't just leave it as a theory. It actually zeroes in on a specific story from the Bible, presenting it as a practical case study, a model for how this whole process is supposed to work.
And that's where we get to what the text calls the Philip model. It's a case study based on the story of the Apostle Philip and an Ethiopian official from the book of Acts. The devotional breaks it all down into a clear, repeatable process.
Here's how the devotional maps out that interaction into a four-step process. First, Philip gets a general direction. Just go to this specific road, and he obeys. That's step one. Then, step two, he arrives at the location. Now it's only after he gets there that step three happens. He receives a precise instruction. This sequence is absolutely key to the author's argument, and it all leads to the final, most crucial part of the model. Step four, acting on that instruction immediately. No hesitation. And just look at how specific that instruction is. The guidance wasn't vague like, go talk to someone. It was a direct, explicit command, go near and join thyself to this chariot. The text presents this kind of precision as a hallmark of the Master Strategist. You get clear, actionable steps right when you need them. And this is where the author really hammers home the point. It's all about the response. As you can see, there are two paths. On one side, Philip takes immediate action. On the other, you have a person who hesitates, who stops to question the instruction. The text makes a big deal of the fact that Philip didn't ask, okay, but what next? He just acted, and that immediate obedience is framed as the key that unlocks the whole opportunity. Hesitation, the author suggests, means you miss the moment completely.
Okay, so that's the biblical story, but how does this all translate to us today? This is where the devotional pivots from that case study to explain how this model becomes a personal mindset for believers. It's about being ready to recognize these moments in our own lives.
So how does this actually apply? The author's argument is that if you are, in his words, attuned to the Spirit, you don't need a rehearsed speech. Your preparation isn't about memorizing a script. It's about being spiritually ready to act. When that door is opened, you just walk through it, because the idea is you'll be equipped for that very specific moment. So what does walking through that door actually look like in a real-life conversation? Well, this is where the author shifts from theory to practice, sharing his own personal tactics for how he seizes these moments.
These are the direct, practical steps the author says he takes. For instance, he talks about preparing the soil by speaking in tongues under his breath before a conversation even starts. He's a big advocate for skipping the small talk and getting right to very direct questions like, are you born again? The principle underneath it all is pretty clear. Every single conversation is a potential opportunity that shouldn't be wasted.
So why? Why such a direct, urgent approach? Well, the author's whole methodology is driven by this really powerful, motivating idea. You might only get one chance. This profound sense of urgency, it shapes the entire strategy, and it leaves absolutely no room for hesitation or delay.
And that brings us to the final, provocative thought that is the foundation for this whole devotional. The author leaves the reader with this question. What if it's their only opportunity to hear the gospel? It's a question that's really designed to reframe every interaction, urging the reader to see each moment not as just some casual encounter, but as a potentially critical, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for somebody else.